I'm inviting you to join me for however long this is going to take. And this one, I will not apologize for the length because we are talking Taurus archetype. And Taurus likes to take things slowly, likes to take its time because it wants to savor every moment of one's life, one's experience. So make yourself comfy just like I am, like I have made myself. Get cozy, get soft, get all your senses, get them all lit up and taken care of and cozied up and cushioned, and so that they feel they all come alive. And I had to. It was like I wasn't preparing for I never particularly. I prepare, but I don't go to great lengths to, I don't know, think of an outfit. It's just a quick kind of color thing or whatever. But today for Taurus talk, I was like, wow, I just had this absolutely deep body desire to lush myself up and to make sure that I'm in the, lush background is behind me rather. And then I have the softest of materials and the floral design and just Taurus is heaven on earth. And I literally feel like in this moment, this is my heaven on earth. And earth being the body as well as the earth itself. Okay, so hi. If you're new here and you're still with me, welcome to my channel. My name is Maya. I'm the astrology crone in the title of the channel, where I share my life wisdom or wisdom of my life as I lived it astrologically, because astrology and the language of archetypes, which is the same thing, astrology is the language of archetypes, is how I make sense of the world and myself since I was a teenager, and I'm 54 this year, 2023. So I want to talk about Taurus archetype. Now, first let me explain why I think it's important to talk about Taurus archetype. This is not an ego trip, just because I'm Taurus or Sun in Taurus and like I say, Saturn Taurus. Did I say this? Sorry, maybe it was one of the previous drafts of this recording. The reason Taurus archetype is important to all of us is because we have transpersonal planets like Uranus, and for last 18 months we had North Node in Taurus, and now we have Jupiter for the next year till next June, also in Taurus. So whenever we have the slow moving planets like Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune and Saturn in any sign, that sign becomes the collective theme. It has a collective significance, and the theme of the sign becomes significant for the collective. Now, of course, in your chart, we all have different, like Taurus for me is first house, for you is different, or maybe also the first house, but then you may not have sun like I do, but you have another planet or you have nothing, right? So that's where you get nuanced and specialized, or rather personalized for you. But the Taurus archetype, wherever you have it in your chart, with the Uranus transiting since 18 or 19, and for the next, it's around 8 years in total, so don't quote me on it when exactly it's going to move to Gemini, but quite a few years. We have had North Node in Taurus, and it's coming to its end. It will be, I think, 17th of July UK time. North Node leaves Taurus and moves into Aries, and for the next 18 months, right, or thereabouts. And we just had Jupiter enter Taurus. So those three big signatures, astrological markers, transits are happening in Taurus. Now, I'll talk about them a little bit individually, but I just also want to point out that, so it's not just that, we have Saturn and Pluto. Pluto is still in Aquarius, and he will be back into Aquarius, then he'll go back into Capricorn, and then go back to Aquarius for good for the next, I don't know how many years, many years, couple of decades maybe, or at least a decade, I'm sure even longer, will be in Aquarius. And so it will be squaring Taurus. So whatever either you have personally in Taurus, or whenever a transit in Taurus happens, through Taurus happens, it will be squared by Pluto and Saturn. No, sorry, Saturn is not in Aquarius anymore. Duh. Oh, okay. So yeah, Pluto is another major transpersonal and majorly significant planet, and it's our collective evolution. It's like wherever Pluto is moving through in terms of a sign, that area of our chart and that archetype, i.e. sign, so Capricorn for the last, don't know, many years, and now it will move into Aquarius. So Capricorn was the sign that we have been purging, that we have been transforming, we have been rebirthing, we have been resurrecting, like renewing, as opposed to resurrecting. That sounds like bringing back the dead, which we don't want, in the sense of like we want what's dead to stay dead, in energetic sense, not moral or I'm not sure what other way. So and so whenever, again, so Uranus also is squaring anything in Aquarius, anything in Leo, and opposing anything in Scorpio, your personal planets or any other transits that will be when we have through those signs. So whenever we have those big planets in any signs, and then we want to look at that sign in particular, and then where it's squaring, opposing. And then if we have another big transpersonal planet in those squares and oppositions, then it's like an even more important. And then those two archetypes are particularly important for the collective. So that's the whole point, it's the collective. And then you narrow it down to your own chart. But I'm not going to go into that today. I'm just going to speak briefly about Jupiter, Uranus, and North Node, and then I'm going to talk about Taurus archetype. So like I said at the beginning, just make sure you're cozy, you have food and drink, I would love to, I will after this, but I won't be able to talk and do that. So Uranus, wherever Uranus is going through, it's a liberator, it's a awakener, and on the shadow side, a re-traumatizer. But essentially, what Uranus does, it's just think of its lightning is one of its symbolisms, iconography, metaphors for Uranus. And so if you think of lightning, it can be traumatic, like some people truly are just like scared of it, right? And it has that deafening sound. It can be unnerving, let's say. But when it happens, when you get lightning, it lightens. It literally makes visible what wasn't visible before. So this is one when I'll have separate videos on how to be your own astrologer, a whole series of them coming soonish. But that's one of the ways to study astrology, to understand, to really get cozy and comfortable a la Taurus with the archetypes, i.e. planets, signs, houses, is to think of them beyond the astrology, but astronomy, physics, mythology, obviously, and all. So just like get really open yourself up to and open up their meanings and their interpretations through various tools, and obviously tarot. What's tarot for Uranus? Fool, for instance, the Fool card, right? And so to expand your understanding. And in expanding, you're really filling it up, like you're filling it with substance, meaning, substance, like the substance of meaning of that planet. So it gives, so the trauma, so it could be showing up where we carry trauma, and in the body in particular, being that it's Taurus, but Uranus does that, so it kind of illuminates, and it's been in the dark. Lightning happens in the daytime as well, I think. Doesn't it? Gosh. Okay, but I presume it does. Why wouldn't it? But when it's in the dark, so if it's in the shadow, if you have trauma, we all have some kind of trauma, but some more than others, right, and all that. So when the lightning happens, when Uranus crosses that path, then it will illuminate, and then that's a re-traumatizing. But it's like, it's that step, first or critical step in that journey of reclaiming that part of you and healing it and reintegrating it. And Uranus is the planet of individuation. The 11th house, Aquarius and Uranus are the individuated. Wherever we have Aquarius, wherever we have Uranus, and whatever we have in our 11th house are the archetypes of our own personal individuation. And individuation is becoming whole, like becoming all of what you are. like integrating all the parts of you, so there are no shadows that are hiding from you, or you are hiding from them, right, of yourself, right? That's the individuation. And then, so Uranus through Taurus is doing that. And it's also like the other themes of Taurus, which I'll be talking about. So just as I talk about them, think about Uranus, that is actually revolutionizing, liberating, awakening those themes for you wherever you have Taurus in your chart. And it's like setting you free. So all the old ways you used to do the house and the placement, whatever planets you may have in there, will have like a do-over. We'll have a new lease of life. We'll have been rejuvenated. North Node is, collectively speaking, is, well, personally as well, but it's essentially, it's like having a torch in a tunnel or some kind of like forest or something, or those CSI movies or whatever, when they walk into a dark house and have a torch to point where we need to be going, to know where we are going. So Taurus North Node is, we're generally moving in that direction. Again, look at your chart, like where you have Taurus and what planets you have in there and what's the house, right? So that's your area where you have spent last 18 months. It's a theme within the area of your chart, or many themes, you'll know, where you've been focusing on, you've been finding, like, the universe supported you in taking that part of your chart to the next level, upgrading it. Plus with Uranus there, that's like an extra boost, like extra boost. We had Uranus Mars conjunction, I think last year, I think it was last year, whenever Mars was in Taurus last, and it was that. Think about that time, find it in ephemeris, or however you look for transits, trace it back and think about what happened during that time, and just generally trace back the Uranus points onto your chart in your own Taurus placements in your chart. Also, how North Node was touching on those placements, and look at those times, like what was going on in your life, where did you feel like the gravitational pull towards exploring, opening doors that you haven't opened before, but not this time, not feeling great fear. Maybe a bit of hesitation, maybe a bit of like, I don't know what I'm going to find there, but there is a sense of it's right, it feels right, and you're called into that direction. And Jupiter, well, Jupiter is relatively easy, I think. I imagine everyone watching this will probably know enough about Jupiter, as it's often talked about. It's expansion, it's benevolence, it's good fortune, and because Jupiter is in tarot, for instance, represented by the card Wheel of Fortune, and it really speaks to the wheel, and it's like Jupiter in Taurus will bring to that part of your chart for the next year. It's time to reap the harvest, if that is the expression, isn't it? And so that part of your chart will bring you the goodies, and then once it leaves, that's what I mean by the Wheel of Fortune now. So for the next less than a year, or just about a year, right? Really think about what goodies are awaiting for you, what treasures you have in your Taurus house that you haven't tapped in yet, but with Jupiter there, you will know that you're ripe for it, and it's just a matter of picking it and identifying it first and then picking it. So don't forget that. So those are like, as you can see, time wise, it's always longer periods of time. With the North Node, you're looking back for the last 18 months, see what's been going on in terms of, transits and touching points in your Taurus parts of your chart, but also squares to, Aquarius and Leo, and then opposition to Scorpio, the more exact, the better. And see what are these lessons in Taurus or Taurus archetype in your chart. Now, that is why that I'm talking about Taurus archetype, because it's extra important for the collective. Like I said, not just because I'm one. And so, as I'm going to now talk about that, bear in mind all those three things I was talking about. So those are the themes. These are just some of the themes. And what I'm going to talk about, I don't hear this talked about ever, like on videos that I otherwise binge on for astrology and tarot and all the other esoteric stuff. I can't say I've ever heard this. I mean, what I'm going to share with you is something I have studied, so it doesn't come to me from various sources, and I sadly haven't actually noted down. But this is what I learned, so it's not like I'm quoting necessarily. So these ideas are not all mine. Some conclusions are mine, but a lot of it is actually from, I know some names like Liz Green, Alan Oken, Astrolocherry, which is a Tumblr astrology blog who I adore. She's a Gemini and she writes so beautifully. So those are the three names that I seem to have, they were left in, and Buddha. But yeah, the rest is other people as well, but I haven't taken note of, which is so annoying. Anyway, and some of it is mine. So what I'm going to be talking about, think about, just bear in mind what the transits are, as I just talked about it. So where do we start? Let me see. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. Like I said, this is going to be a long one, but we're going to enjoy it because it's just lush and it's gorgeous weather, and you're just, this is how you do Taurus. You take your time. You don't rush. So, this was like 2000. Yeah, this was 2000, I know. It was opening of the Tate Modern, and I was one of the first people to be working there in a bookshop. There was hundreds of us probably, because it was a big, huge, as you can imagine, institution, and the bookshop, including the bookshop. But I was those first people. So anyway, so there was this Taurus friend, colleague that I was working with, and who was also, did I say Taurus? Yeah, he was also Taurus, but I don't know, I don't know if I talked to him astrology. He was a bit not the easiest person to talk to, but so maybe that's also why. But anyway, so I was at the till and he was there doing something next to it, and I had the watch, times of the wristwatches before the mobile phones took over. And so I had the wristwatch, and he commented, he said, he didn't know I was Taurus. And he said, "Are you Taurus?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he says, I asked him, "So how do you know?" And he goes, "Well, you have wound that wristwatch so tightly, I could, I can just see it's probably blue underneath, like you stop the blood." So I can't get the actual quote. Anyway, and I was like, wow, always stuck with me. I kind of didn't like it because I was like, what does it mean? What does it mean? And that was like 2000. So these nuances are relatively recent with this whole Taurus piece that I'm going to share here with you. So that was that moment. And I was a bit like, let's say, instead of saying it looks beautiful, the watch, as I would have preferred, he commented, like I said, that. And, but I left it at that. I didn't ask him any further. And then, as I was collating all this information in the last 10 years, let's say, I came across, I think this was Astrolocherry, that's like I say, Tumblr name, who wrote that Taurus, archetype Taurus, she uses she. I mean, it's a yin sign anyway, it's a feminine sign, but she always writes with the she. So she was writing like, she's tightly wound, and her body remembers those wounds, not wounds. Well, they're kind of wounds as well, but those, like, it's how Taurus remembers. Oh, and it's how she's secure. She's secure, but she's so secure she's tightly wound. So it's like, and I got that, and it was to do with like the wrist. It was about being bound, like wound with the material in the way that she was writing, but it was about security and how, in order to be secure, she's tightly wound. And I was like, immediately remember that conversation with that friend, colleague, and I was like, wow. And I love that, like that's like when astrology comes to life, and it speaks to you the language of you, right? But through astrology. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? So that's Taurus. That's a security. It's like but it's the body needs to feel like I love to feel pressure on my body. Like I don't like to. I mean, I can enjoy, like, this is quite loose and sort of light, and I like that as well. I can, but I prefer probably like heavy materials, like to feel the weight on my skin, on my bones. So yes, I will always wear tightly wound wristwatch, right? And it is the desire for security, but I think it's also, so it's secured, right? But it's also this sensuality. It's like I want to feel things on me, and so there is sensuality in the lightness, light touch, right? But there is also that's one kind of sensuality, and then there is another kind which is like I say, more intense and more kind of pressing. And I think also for me that's because I have Saturn in Taurus, so Saturn is the heavy pressure. So I like it on my body in that way. I'm just loving this. I hope you're enjoying yourself sitting here with me, listening to me talk about Taurus archetype. Let me see, I'm looking at my notes. Another theme of Taurus is wealth. Now, so back to Uranus and North Node and Jupiter, they're closely related to wealth, or Jupiter certainly is, and then Uranus in terms of revolutionizing your relationship, our relationship with wealth. And I think I've been seeing in the collective, the little, snippet of it that I have through my own social media, whatever, is that perception towards wealth that is about immaterial. Well, it's not immaterial, actually. It is material, but it's the quality versus quantity. The craft, which is quality, I suppose, the craftsmanship versus utility, beauty versus, again, utilities. It's almost like wealth is, Taurian wealth, and therefore currently with all the transits, I think it's seeping into the collective more than ever before. But Taurian elevated wealth, like as an evolved Taurus would consider, what she would consider wealth would be inner richness. And it being a yin sign, it's a very introverted and internally focused sign. The processes that go inside the Taurus or any yin sign are hidden. They're secretive. They're a secret. It's a feminine energy, right? The feminine archetype. So wealth therefore becomes not something to show to the world, not something that it's obvious to someone looking from the outside, but it's the feeling of wealth. So with Taurus, it would be a lot to do with a simple life, so simple pleasures, like to have a life day in, day out, which is from the moment of waking up to the moment of going back to bed, full of moments that are in themselves rich and meaningful and sensual, in the sense of pleasure, in the sense of feeling, in the sense of being in connection with it, in the sense of being present with it. And living like that is a substantial way of living. And what I mean by that, it's the living that leaves a mark, not in terms of legacy, although that too is as a metaphor, as a method, a process, mechanism, is certainly part of that. But more in the sense of I know I have lived today. Do you get what that means? It sounds big. It sounds so maybe even zany or out there or weird, I don't know, or certainly kind of abstract, philosophical, I know I have lived today. But if you think about it, what it actually means, and there's another video on meaning, which I'll remember to link below, meaning video. Okay, note to self. It's the knowing is part of it's like how we make our experience meaningful, our experience of living, our experience of being in this body, Taurus, but in this identity, in this lifetime, right? And so if I take time because if you rush through things, you're certainly having a sensation, but it's like if you think of Eight of Wands, or if you think of a train driving past you, it's a blur, isn't it? You kind of can't distinguish. It's just this, and it's an experience in itself, sure, but it's an experience of a whoosh, as opposed to an experience of a train, of the material, of the people on the train, of the actual things outside that you can, it's moving slowly enough that you can actually take it all in. Think of the Ferdinand, the bull, the Disney character, who just like smells the daisies. So that's all he cares about. It doesn't care about the fight that with the dragon, wasn't it, or something, that they want him to do. So to know that you have lived today is to have those memories, the memories that are tangible, that you have felt, that you have taken the time to feel, to experience, and which is really another word in this instance for feeling, which is also for experience is another word, but yeah, you get what I mean now? So it's like, I know I have lived today. That is wealth. Now that is wealth, yeah? Because it's like, you really like accumulating the days that you can remember that you have lived and know that you have lived because you have taken the time to live them fully, paying attention, like the Ferdinand in the cartoon, that actually is slowly sniffing every little daisy because it doesn't want to miss any of them, because they're there, their presence is there, that it's a life, right? It's a life. So you don't want to miss it, you don't want to disregard it, because it's precious. All of it is precious wealth, right? So I'll leave it at that. So otherwise, I said that we are going to have a lot of time, but yeah, I don't want this to be more than an hour. Hopefully we'll be considerably less still. So that's wealth. So consider Uranus in North Node and your Taurus house. How does this resonate? And as to how to do that, you just listen to what I just said and see what comes up for you, and then consider your own Taurus house and what themes are there. So where are the two overlapping, and see what that then does for you, like what kind of activation you're feeling as you overlap those two, the house, your specific house, and what I just talked about. As I've been talking about all of this, just this kind of wealth piece particularly, we may have thought, wow, this sounds, like I said at the start, like philosophical, like spiritual, right? Well, and this is one of the biggest revelations that I found as I studied this piece, and I studied it, because that's what I do with astrology. But that's the time of the internet far more, like I say 10 or 12 years ago, I started really going crazy with my studies, because I had access to so much more easily to all kinds of literature and blogs and all this stuff, right? So anyway, so I compiled all this information. It's like a huge file of Taurus archetype, and not as annotated as I would have liked, but and one of the biggest revelations was that Taurus is the sign of spirituality, is the sign of ascension, ascended masters. I was like, what? Taurus? If you are old enough, you might remember how Taurus was always like kind of poo-pooed a bit, like by astrologers. I don't take it personally, but I just, certainly popular astrology kind of thing. It's like boring and stubborn. It's just like a couple of, keywords, which is how astrology was done kind of popularly, mass market wise. But I do remember it's like, you would never think of Taurus as spiritual. Well, I didn't until I started looking into this. And then it all kind of slotted in, as per those studies. And then, like, as always with me, I'm like, have I got evidence in real life of that? Does that really translate into my experience of what they're talking about, and therefore Taurus? And it does. So, just the fun fact that Buddha, sorry if I haven't kind of clarified this, is where I'm going with this, is that it's Taurus, or rather, the Buddhist path is a Taurian path. So Taurus is Buddha. And he actually literally is. So he's known that he was born enlightened and died under the full moon in May. So that's Scorpio full moon in May, Taurus season, right? And Sun in Taurus, and so Sun and Moon. And so another fun astrological fact is that any sign is the integrated opposite. So I speak of this on numerous occasions. You may have heard me, or if you're new, hi, welcome, nice to meet you. This is the first time, but it's basically, if you're a Taurus, if you're an integrated Taurus, you're a Scorpio. Because, I mean, it's kind of like, it's maybe a bit too simplistic to say that, but the saying is Taurus is an integrated Scorpio. Scorpio is an integrated Taurus. Yeah, so it's because Taurus without Scorpio is just half of the story, and vice versa. And every sign goes for every sign, and the axis of the opposition. So I love that synchronicity, or just that fact that Buddha was born under that axis, under the integration axis, right, of Scorpio and Taurus. And so what is Buddha? I mean, not what is Buddha, rather, but what was his message to us, right? That all suffering is due to human suffering is down to our desire, or because we are attached. What's the actual expression? Human suffering is due to attachment. No, that doesn't sound good enough. But you get, I'm sure you know the exact quote. But basically, we suffer because we get attached to our desires, or the outcomes, rather, of our desires. We want certain things certain ways, so we want things to look and be, so we want an outcome, and we're attached to that outcome, and that is where all the suffering lies. That was one of his main teachings. And also talk about that in one of the other videos, which I will hopefully remember to include in the link below. And so the desire is Pluto and Scorpio. So what's Taurus got to do with it? Taurus is attachment. I mean, that's a thing. Scorpio is also attachment in a different way, because it's a shadow of both signs, right? But Taurus is, because it's Earth, it's naturally more attachable. I mean, it's by nature is attaching, right? Is that it gets attached because it's Earth. It's like, it sticks. That's what I mean. But the spiritual side of Taurus is that very opposition, that Taurus is designed to combat, or to integrate. So let me just see the exact wording here, because it's this author, which I don't know what they're called. So this is not mine. I have this is someone else's. But it's just so beautiful. So the arena, the zodiac is the arena, the amphitheater, and the bull is in the center of the arena, as like bullfights. And the zodiac is watching the Taurus fight, or rather having this great battle between desire, the animal, the Taurus, right, the big animal, like the animal of fertility, the animal of lust, or just of sexual desire, like just the animalistic, pure desire, right? Gracefully, masterfully subduing and transmuting the animalistic desire. Because the point of Taurus, and I'll explain like how it all kind of sunk into it. These were not just words. Eventually, it all sunk for me. So the point of Taurus, archetypally, is to transmute physical desire into awareness. Now, why? As you may remember from the earlier videos, where I talk about, or maybe I haven't yet created a video, but I will be, so I'll be listing it in the why video. it's the question of why that is the one we're all seeking, and astrology or similar modalities can help us with that. That actually allows us most freely, spaciously, and reliably that the answer to the why will be our own as opposed to someone else's, if we look to astrology to tell us why. So I'm going to answer why Taurus is the sign of spirituality, or the ascension of Buddha or Buddhism, enlightenment. So for one simple reason, which is that Taurus is the wanker of the horror of the zodiac. And so I say this with the greatest love, and well, I hope you're not offended by my swear words. It's just how I am. So it's, yeah, you gotta be okay with that if you want to hang out with me. So, and what it means is that someone who is not someone, but the archetypally, Taurus is self-sustained, self-contained, self-sufficient, self-reliant. It's all self. It's ruled by Venus, which is the nocturnal Venus, which is the one that's like inward. Like the daytime Venus of Libra is all about daytime. Hey, hi, hey, how are you? The other people, right? Connection, all that daytime. It's yang. Libra is yang, as in yin yang, right? So it's masculine in its energy, in its mechanism of OS, right? Operating system. So where Venus, Taurian Venus is feminine, not girly, you know what I mean, but feminine energy. And what that means, it's like it's insular. It's like insular. It's that's not the right word, but it's everything happens inside, right? It doesn't need external anything. And so that is one of it's the path of Taurus. It's to, so there is a quote, another quote. Did I write this down? Please tell me I write it down. I wrote it down. This is Buddha saying, do not look for sanctuary in anyone except yourself. That's it. It's like, I mean, I'm not a Buddhist expert, but, you know, if you are, by all means, you can share, you know, correct me or whatever. But essentially, my understanding has always been of Buddhism is that it's ultimately, we are the universe. We are the God. We have everything we need inside us, literally, right? And that is Taurus. So, but it's an animal, the desire. So on one level, Taurus is all about self-sufficiency. So where is this desire going to go? Into awareness, because desire is always reaching out, seeking out, right? Because, yeah, you have a desire for something. It comes from a lack, like you don't have something, so you want it. So it's not, you don't have it, right? It's not in you, you want it, it's outside. But when it's a desire that's situated in an archetype that is all about in, then that desire just becomes awareness. It's not, it kind of like, it has no, it doesn't spill, it doesn't get wasted. So when I spoke in another video about how desire is never a destination, how Pluto is never, or rather how we, and you, I'm sure, have experienced that when you do satisfy a desire of yours, pretty quickly it's like, oh, well, it doesn't really stay. It hasn't got a staying power, the satisfaction of fulfilling a desire. It doesn't, because there's no destination. It isn't a destination. It's just an experience. So when you are an archetype that it's all about self, like inward, right? Then that desire just is another ism. It's just being. It's just an energy that you become aware of. So, and that is enlightenment. I mean, okay, I'm stating it kind of very sort of plainly maybe, or even simply, maybe it is actually, I don't know, I'm not enlightened like that, but I had glimpses of it. And the time I got these glimpses kind of pretty regularly was the time 1 year, again, quite a few years ago. In fact, it was Uranus opposition, first time Uranus opposing my natal Uranus, so when he entered Aries. So that was a while ago. I, just like that, it was crazy. Like I just became, up until the point I was a skeptic. I was not, I mean, I was into astrology always, but kind of always a bit like, well, I don't know, all that love and light and all that spirituality was just a bit, not me. And then it was 180 U-turn I took. I don't know how, it just happened, like Uranus opposition. And I just went crazy about meditation. I bought all the books by Osho, and there was another Gary something guy I found, and it just really spoke to me. And I practiced meditating for hours on end for the whole summer. And I had moments that I don't feel like sharing because they feel sacred, but they are essentially, because this is what I discovered in those meditations and following guidance by Osho and by the other guy, and YouTube wasn't existing at the time, to just watch a YouTube video, right? And it was basically moving energy. It's just being aware of what's going on in your body. And the moment you focus your energy so kind of inwardly, like not your energy, your attention, right? It becomes like making love to yourself. And I had an anonymous blog at the time that was publicized on a national platform in UK, on a national magazine, Woman's Glossy. So I had a following. I was anonymous because I was writing, I just wanted to be anonymous. And I had this like couple of yoga teachers that were like, oh my God, I love how you're speaking about this. This is what, the orgasm as you meditate. And literally it was that, but the beauty, and this is what Tantra is, it's like not letting that desire become a semen spilt out of, not that there's anything wrong with semen being spilt out, ejaculated, of course, or, female version of that. But the far better, way of using that energy is to it's like having a major energetic blast, like the car wash with that really powerful jet that clears everything, and it's like that. And if you've done it, I'm sure if you're watching this, you're probably one of the people who experimented with this, or maybe you're a serious meditator. I'm not. It was just that time. I don't do it. Just don't meditate like that. I live meditatively for the most of my days and most of the hours in the day. Or at least half, but yeah. And so, and it was just that. It was like there was the focus on my energy, moving it through my body, following where it is, was orgasmic in itself. And I didn't orgasm, I didn't complete, but because it's just like, that's the thing. It's like, then it's gone. It's just, it's like wasted, like just. But if you keep it. I was like, I remember being out and about, and this few people, and this friend in particular, she was like, what are you on? And I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't saying anything. She said, what is it? Like you radiate, you're like almost like you're glowing. And it was just because I was turning. And so when I read this quote here, that turning a desire into awareness, that's the thing. That's this energy, which feels like a sexual desire, feels like a turn on, it feels like an arousal, and it's driving towards the orgasm, could potentially do that easily, is what that quote meant, the desire. So you can have a desire for, and an unconscious desire, in the sense of it hasn't been made this conscious, this kind of awareness, spiritual awareness of it. So if you have a desire for a person, or for a food, or for a material goods, like cars and beautiful things, and you're not aware of it, it's almost like wasted desire. If you're just if you're not sure, I bought this and it's every time I wear it I feel wonderful. So there is that destination. Maybe it's unfair to kind of like, claim there is no destination. There is a place you can come back to, but it's just minor. It's like, it's not, it doesn't hold for long. It's there, you can revisit it and you can tap into it, but it doesn't hold for long. And so, but when you're desiring something outside of yourself, and that's the attachment, right? So if you don't get it, then you feel like, your life is, you're suffering emotionally, but if you turn the desire in and remove the story, i.e. the attachment, your attachment to the outcome, that's the story. So you remove the story and you just focus on the energy of it. It enlightens you. Like, it literally, like I said, this friend of mine who said, like, you're glowing, you're just, what are you, like, switched on? Like, you look like, she maybe even said like you had really great sex or something. Maybe she said that. It was something about, like that as well. It was, like I say, it was a whole summer I was doing it, right? And so she would comment regularly. And I was the healthiest at the time. I lost weight, not for the vanity purpose. Well, that was a side effect and that was like a bonus, but it was because I was doing all of this work. I didn't need food. There was none of this external desire. And so, and just another kind of like a little, to support all of this, the Taurus is the spiritual animal. Essentially, it's the ultimate vessel for the ascension, the archetype for the ascension is bullseye. Bullseye is the third eye, is the center of, like, when Sufis turn around, and it's like that center, that nothingness. When you meditate, there is a sense of such a core stability, such a center to you, but it's empty. But that's its power, and power not in the sense of power over anyone or anything, but it's like a energetic source, the source, right? Which then brings me to, actually, I want to go through everything I have noted because this is all fabulous stuff and it will be less than an hour. Like how this is all just layering the same point. In human design, I'm quite good with human design. I'm quite versed. I'm in my experiment for about now 5th year almost, not 4 years. Or is it 3? No, 4. Anyway, there is this thing called magnetic monopole. And human design is like the mechanics of one's body, energies, basically, or how we operate. And so in that, it's a diagram kind of thing. There is something called a magnetic monopole, which acts as an attractor, energetic attractor. And it is, sorry, I'm thinking, no, maybe it's not on okay, no. What I mean, my sun is there. So I have sun at 15 degree Taurus, but in human design, the gate 2, that's what gate 2 is. The magnetic monopole in your chart is gate 2. And I have that defined. I mean, even if you have it undefined, you still have that. But when you have it defined, it means that you have a reliable source of that magnetic pull working through you to pull you towards things and to attract things to you that are meant for you, that are, and but because gate 2 isn't just 15 degrees, it's, I don't know, that is a bit of an enigma when it comes to human design, but it's like a couple of degrees or however many either side of 15, I think, but it's there, it's in that area of Taurus, and it's famous, it's particularly for generators, and it's that principle of generating attraction. It's like you're drawing people in. And I always found that I tend to attract people, and it's nothing to do with looks, it's to do with the energy, because looks are subjective. Some people might think I'm attractive, some people might think I'm, no. But energetically, I tend to more easily, really easily. And so Taurus as an archetype outside of human design is a great attractor. It's like, it's known for that. I mean, it's, it's beautiful, it's aesthetically pleasing, it's aesthetics that are not just superficial, like could be Libra, like art, like two-dimensional painting, let's say, but their actual bodily sensation, sensual experience of beauty as a viewer, but also as a holder of beauty. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, I'm just loving all of this. Hopefully, like I say, you're enjoying it too. We might be at the end, actually. I think I may have said everything I wanted to say. Yeah. Atlantis and all the ancients worship bull as well. The bull is the sacred animal. So now you hopefully heard. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, as always. Like, let me know if you'd like me to elaborate on any of this and talk more about one and not the other, or, you know, clarify something or whatever. But also, like, have you heard of this before? Like, have you heard anyone talk about Taurus in this way? If you know, if you even recognize who these people are that I've been quoting, or, you know, these ideas come from, please let me know. I would love to just actually find them as proper sources and then quote them and all that. But yeah, I would love to hear, like I say, if you're familiar with this take on Taurus, archetype, and Taurus as a sign, which is the same thing. So do let me know. Okay, 51 minutes. Like I said, it was going to be under an hour. So hopefully you lushly sat with me and enjoyed this time. I'll see you next week.